Nobody tells you they're doing it. They're not in finance groups. They're not reading investment Twitter. They're not talking about it at dinner. They just quietly, steadily, over about 10 to 15 years, become unreachable. Not rich in the lottery sense. Rich in the sense that they stop worrying forever. And the strange part? The habits that got them there look almost embarrassingly simple, which is probably why most people never take them seriously. Habit 1, they automate before they think. Most people get paid, feel the money in their account, spend some, and try to save. Whatever's left, spoiler, there is rarely anything left. The people who get quietly rich flip the sequence. The money moves before they see it, before the brain decides it's available, before the weekend, the dinner, the impulse. It's not discipline. Discipline fails. It's architecture. They make the default behavior the right behavior, and then they walk away. 20% into investments. Automatic. Every month. Whether the market is up, down, or sideways. The decision was made once, years ago, and it never needs to be made again. Habit 2. They ignore their raises. There is a concept in behavioral economics called lifestyle inflation. Economists give it a clinical name. Everyone else just calls it getting a raise and somehow still being broke 6 months later. Here is the specific mechanism. You earn more. Your reference point shifts. What felt like a treat becomes an expectation. The bigger apartment, the nicer car, the upgrade on everything. None of it feels like a choice. It just feels like progress. But the people building real wealth have a rule, and it is almost comically strict. When income goes up, lifestyle stays flat. The raise doesn't go to a better sofa. It goes directly into the same boring investment accounts they've had since they were 26. Over 15 years, a person who earns $60,000 and ignores every raise can end up with more than someone who earns $120,000 and upgrades with each on. Habit 3. They spend on time, not things. This one sounds like self-help. It isn't. It's a strategic relocation of a finite resource that directly affects output. The person who hires someone to clean their apartment isn't being lazy. They're buying back 4 hours a week, 190 hours a year, to spend on whatever compounds, a skill, a side project, rest that makes them sharper. Meanwhile, the person who insists on doing everything themselves as a point of pride is trading the highest leverage hours of their life for a clean bathroom they could have outsourced for $40. The quietly wealthy are ruthless about this. Not extravagant, ruthless. They don't buy luxury. They buy capacity. Habit 4. They are extraordinarily boring investors. There is a famous study, actually multiple studies, showing that the best performing brokerage accounts over a decade belong to people who had either forgotten they had the account or were dead. The worst performers, the most active ones, the ones checking daily, reacting to headlines, rotating in and out, switching strategies every quarter because a different strategy was working better last quarter. The people who get rich quietly put money into diversified low-cost index funds. And then they do the hardest thing in modern finance. Nothing for years. No crypto rotations, no hot stock tips, no watching the ticker. They are boring on purpose because they understand that excitement in investing is almost always a warning sign. Habit 5. They never explain their spending. This might be the strangest one and possibly the most important. Wealth has a social enemy, and it is called the performance of not being cheap. The pressure to split the expensive dinner, to book the group holiday upgrade, to buy a round, to keep up. Most people silently hemorrhage money at the intersection of their finances and their social identity. They overspend, not because they want the thing, but because they don't want to look like someone who can't afford the thing. The quietly wealthy have quietly exited this game. They say no without lengthy justification. They don't perform frugality, and they don't perform abundance. They are simply indifferent to the opinion, and that indifference, over 10 years, is worth more than most people realize. Here is the uncomfortable thing about all 5 of these habits. None of them require a high income. None of them require financial expertise. None of them require sacrifice that looks like sacrifice from the outside. In fact, most people who practice them don't look particularly disciplined. They just look unbothered. Run the numbers on someone who automates 20%, ignores every raise, buys back their time, invests in indexes and leaves them alone, and stops performing wealth for strangers over 20 years, starting at any reasonable income, and the figure at the end is quietly absurd. Not because any single habit is powerful, because all 5 compound against each other for decades. So here is the question worth sitting with. If these habits are this simple, and they are, why do so few people do them? The answer probably isn't information. You just watched a 4-minute video that covered all of it. The answer is probably something older and harder than that. Something about identity and what we think money is actually for. That's a longer conversation.